remember during my college days, my friends used to ask me how could I grasp the concepts being taught in the class and score well in the examinations when they were struggling to understand the concepts and remember those. I used to answer very casually to them, but when I actually started to find the difference, I observed that there is one big factor which is making difference, and that factor is their grammatical inability. Being a language student, I used to focus more on structure, I used to focus more on grammar, understand that deeply, and that used to help me understand everything that is being taught in the class and reproduce in my own words in the examinations. Let me share my experience of last 12 years teaching career. When parents come to know that I am an English teacher, they very humbly request to do something with their sons or daughters' English so that they improve their English and communication skills. The same experience is with professional teachers, technical teachers. They are very sound in their domain knowledge, but they find it very difficult to express that knowledge, and that is again because of lack of grammatical accuracy. Same is with some of the working professionals, or rather you must have observed that most of the successful professionals, they join private English coaching classes to improve their communication skills. So dear participants, this all proves that grammar is the foundation stone of developing your communication skills and in turn developing your personality. Imagine that you complete this course successfully, do all the tasks as being told in the course. I'm sure that you will perform better, you will have improved version of yourself, and you will be appreciated by your teachers, by your students, by your parents, by your colleagues, by your clients, almost all the people around you. Keeping this in mind, I have deliberately kept course 1.0 of this online certification program, Let's Communicate Effectively, the course 1.0 English Basics for Effective Communication. With this brief introduction, my dear friends, let's start our journey towards personal growth. Happy learning.
Hello everyone, and welcome to this online certificate program, course 1.0 English Basics for Effective Communication. Introduction to the program. The objective of this program is developing effective professional communicators. For whom the course is? The course is for the students, teachers, non-teachers, working professionals, as well as job seekers. Nature of the program is, it is online, it is self-paced, but requires a specific time from the participants' end. There will be 4 courses, and with the 4 courses with separate as well as comprehensive certificates. So the program includes 4 courses. Each course will have separate certificate, as well as if you complete all the 4 courses, you will get a comprehensive certificate. Nature of each course, 4 to 5 hours approximately online contents to be finished in 4 to 5 days, and conclusive live session on final day, and final online assessment based on the contents for e-certificate. What are the requirements? Number 1, desire to do something additional, registration through the link, subscription to YouTube channel Dr. Mahesh B. Shinde, watching the contents carefully and solving practice tests, as the final exam will depend on these tests only. Now, desire to do something additional. I know you may be busy in doing a lot of things, but they may be usual, they may be regular. If you want to do something additional, this is the course for you. Course 1.0 English Basics for Effective Communication. Let us talk about this course now. Why this course is important, why English Basics, why English Grammar, and so on. So first, when I say this English Basics for Effective Communication, the word basics itself define it is about grammar. Now, why grammar? Why to study grammar separately? What is the importance of grammar? If you just look at any language, when you are learning any language, it is said that the grammar of that language is the soul of that particular language. If you want to master that particular language, you should master the grammar of that language first. If you are proficient in grammar, it develops efficiency to express ourselves correctly, as well as it develops the habit of thinking logically and clearly. Nature of this course, 4 to 5 hours approximately. Online contents to be finished in 4 to 5 days. A conclusive live session on final day and final online assessment based on the practice tests for e-certificate. So during this course, we are going to have a lot of practice tests. So based on those tests, there will be a final assessment. If you clarify that, if you pass, then you will get e-certificate. Course 1.0, the objectives are understand and revise essential English grammar through discussion, examples, practice tests and exercises. Developing accuracy of expression and effectiveness of usage. So in this course, we are going to have discussion. We are going to see a lot of examples of English basics things and practice tests and do exercises. Definitely, the second objective is it will help you to develop accuracy of expression and effectiveness of usage of English grammar. The contents of the course 1.0 English basics for effective communication are parts of speech and their proper usage, tenses and their correct usage, degree, active passive voice, direct indirect speech and usage, and types of sentences and error analysis. So there will be 5 videos on those 4 subtopics. The parts of speech and their proper usage will be divided in 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. In part 1, we will focus on nouns, pronouns and verbs. And in part 2, we will focus on adjectives, adverbs, prepositions, conjunctions, interjections and determiners. There will be next video each on these topics, tenses, degree and types of sentences. Let us start with the first, parts of speech and usage. Now when I say parts of speech, it simply means names given to words in English. So what are the parts of speech? They are just the names given to each word in English language. They are 9 in number. They are not 8. You must be having this illusion still that there are 8 parts of speech, but there are 9: noun, pronoun, verb, adverb, adjective, preposition, conjunction, interjection and determiners. This is something new. We will discuss in detail. Nouns. So what are the nouns? Now I am not going to focus more on definitions and the theoretical part. We will focus just slightly on that part and will emphasize on the usage and the areas of concern. So nouns, they are naming words, names of person, place, animals, things, ideas, objects, emotions, etc. And the types, you must have studied those: proper nouns, common nouns, collective nouns, abstract nouns, compound, countable and uncountable and so on. Now based on your previous knowledge, let us do one exercise. As I told, there will be a lot of exercises in between and you have to take active part in solving the exercise. What you are supposed to do? Simply take a paper and pen and write your answers on the paper and tally with the keys that I am going to provide after each slide. So your involvement is very essential, because unless and until you internalize these grammar rules, these correct usage of grammar, you will not become proficient speaker of English language. So the first exercise, identify the different types of nouns in the below paragraph. So I'll just put a paragraph here. What you are supposed to do, you are supposed to just identify the nouns of the bold words here, right? These are the nouns. You have to identify whether it is proper, common, abstract and so on. I'll pause here for some time and we'll come up with the keys. You can also pause, or if you need more time, you can simply pause the video and just resume once you are ready with your keys. Okay, so it is education is often considered a means of transformation. True education is believed to have the power to transform the ignorant and innocent child into a knowledgeable, enlightened, happy and evolved individual. Modern education system, however, seem to have put all such noble pursuits on the back burner. One after another, educational institutions all over the world seem to have capitulated to cult of success as they focus on getting their students jobs and through it money, status, comfort and luxury. People these days seem to have decided to ignore the words of wisdom by the great poet W.B. Yeats, who in his inimitable way once said, education is not the filling of a pail but the lighting of a fire. You have to identify the nouns. I hope you have done with, let us say, this is now the types of nouns. Like education is abstract, it is not the clear. Means, again a common noun. Transformation, abstract noun. Power, abstract noun. Child, common noun, not a specific. System, abstract. Institutions, common. World, common, and so on. People, again collective because it is a group of people. And poet, a common noun, but W.B. Yeats is a proper. Okay, so let us see now the types of nouns with examples and the proper uses. Now nouns, they are divided in these many types: proper, common, collective, abstract, compound, countable and uncountable. Proper nouns used for specific person, place or things, and they always start with capital letter. For example, Taj Mahal, Maharashtra, Kabir, etc. Common noun used for naming people, places and things in general, not the specific, like student, no name, park, no name, state, nation, dog, furniture, etc. Commonly used. Collective nouns refer to a group of persons or things. Family, group of persons. Team, group of persons. Bunch, a bunch of flowers. Police, etc. They are collective nouns. Abstract, no physical entities. They refer to ideas, emotions and concepts. For example, communication, culture, honesty, freedom. We cannot see these concretely in front of our eyes. That's why they are abstract nouns. Compound, two or more words used as one word noun. For example, rainfall, rain and fall, rainfall. Post office, classroom, mother-in-law. Countable, can be counted singular or plural. For example, book, books, chair, chairs, table, tables. And uncountable, which cannot be counted and they usually refer to liquids, substances and ideas. For example, happiness, beauty, milk, bravery, etc. Let's move ahead now. Nouns dealing with some problem areas. When we are using nouns, we have some of the problem areas of concern which we should focus, and this is what we are going to learn now. Proper uses. Singular or plural. Mostly we get confused whether we should use singular noun or plural noun, right? So some nouns are mostly used in singular form while other nouns are always used as plurals. Let us do this exercise now. Choose the correct noun form, singular or plural, in the following sentences. Just pause the video and write your answers. You have to choose one noun from given alternatives. Where are you? Where are your belonging or belongings? We are planning to buy furniture or furnitures for 3 lakh rupees. The department has ordered various equipment or equipments for the lab. I use various software or softwares for editing my videos. He combs his hair or hairs backward. Eventually, the new jeans got torn. Alcohol is prohibited in the college premises. Let's see the keys. If you are not done, just pause and resume once you are ready. So here are the keys to the exercise. Where are your belongings? The word belongings, the noun belongings is always in plural. not the belonging. We are planning to buy furniture for 3 lakh rupees, not furnitures. The department has ordered various equipment for the lab. I use various software for editing my videos. He combs his hair backward. Eventually, the new jeans got torn. Alcohol is prohibited in the college premises. So you must have noticed that belongings, jeans, and premises, they are always plural. These nouns are always used in plural forms, whereas furniture, equipment, software, hair are always used in singular. We, the second users of English, always make the mistake of these nouns. They usually say furnitures or equipments or softwares. So we are not supposed to use these nouns in plural form. Let's move ahead. There are certain plural only forms, right? So plural only nouns like clothes, these nouns will come always in plural. Clothes, pants, scissors, shorts, thanks, trousers, headphones, binoculars, glasses, and goggles. Let's move ahead. Noun with unusual plural forms. Most of the time, the second user of English, they make the mistakes when they are using plural forms of unusual kind. Let us see. The company has signed a number of memoranda with other companies. Number of many memoranda. The plural of memorandum is memoranda, not memorandums. Second, each company has its own set of selection criteria. Singular is criterion and plural is criteria, not criterions. Many children, not childs or even not children's. Usually we find this common error in the users. Children's. Many children prefer funny cartoons. We saw variety of knives, not knives, in the hotel. The report has 2 indices, not indexes, and 2 appendices, not appendixes. So singular index, plural indices, singular appendix, plural appendices. More examples of unusual irregular plural nouns. So life, lives, calf, calves, foot, feet, alumnus, alumni, so on, like wife, wives, tooth, teeth, phenomenon, phenomena, curriculum, curricula, bacterium, bacteria, sheep, sheep, fish, fish, deer, deer. Keep in mind these unusual or irregular plural forms of noun, and they should be used accordingly. Let's move ahead and see the next area of concern for most of the users of English, that is possessive form. When we are making possessive, either we use apostrophe s or we use of. So when to use s, apostrophe s, and when to use of, let us see. Take a look at the following sentences. It is someone else's mobile. The cover of the book is beautiful. Virat's bat answered all the critics. And all teachers' dress is same. That is Sachin Tendulkar, the cricketer's house. Right? In first sentence, it is someone else's mobile, not mobile of someone. In second, it is not book's cover, cover of the book. In third, not bat of Virat, it is Virat's bat. All teachers, after apostrophe, if we are using plural, apostrophe is given after s, and Sachin Tendulkar, the cricketer's house. What is the explanation for this? Let us see now the guidelines. Use apostrophe s to show possessive of living beings. The king's palace, dog's tail, and that's why here someone else's mobile, Virat's bat, living beings. When we are talking making possessive of living beings, we have to use apostrophe s. And if we are making possessive of non-living things, we are supposed to use of. For example, screen of mobile, food of Kolhapur. Not mobile's screen or Kolhapur's food, and that's why it is not books cover here. Just add apostrophe to show the possessive of plural nouns. Students group. We should not add s here. If I add apostrophe here after t, it will become students singular. And when it is plural, we should not use s after the plural of s. So teacher's room. Make possessive of second or the last noun when two or more nouns come together. When two or more nouns come together, we have to make possessive of the second or the last noun. That's why here the that is Sachin Tendulkar, the cricketer's house. We are not saying that is Sachin Tendulkar's, the cricketer's house. Pronouns. The words that are used in place of nouns are known as pronouns. They are divided in these types: personal, I, we, you, he, she, they; impersonal, it; demonstrative, this, that, these, those; indefinite, some, none, many, few, etc.; distributive, each, either, neither, etc.; reflexive, myself, himself, herself, itself, ourselves; and relative, which, who, whom, that, etc. So no need to go worry about the theory part of any grammatical part. Once we practice them through some examples and practice states, automatically they are internalized. So let us move ahead and learn about the pronouns. When we are talking about pronouns, a very important part comes is about person, number, and case. So I'll just focus slightly on that. So the pronouns: person, first person, second person, third person, and in number they are singular or plural. So I, we, first person singular plural; second person you, third person he, she, it, or they. So when I'm talking about myself, it is first person singular. When I'm talking about we all, then it is first person plural. If I'm talking about someone in front of me, so it is second person singular, you. And if I'm talking about more than one in front of me, then it is second person plural, like you all participants. Third person, I and someone in front of me are discussing about the third person singular, like he is a good boy, she is an intelligent girl, it is a very difficult course, or it is a very useful course, and so on. And if it is in plural, we are using they. In case or the forms: subjective, objective, possessive, and reflexive. So I, me, my, mine, myself; we, us, our, ours, ourselves; you, your, yours, yourself, or yourselves; yourself for singular, yourselves for plural you; he, him, his, himself; she, her, hers, herself; it, its, itself; they, them, their, theirs, themselves. We will see the uses. So the pronouns subjective case or form is used mostly as subjects. Its objective cases are used as object of the sentence. When we are making possessive, we use possessive cases, and when we are making emphasis, we are using these reflexive pronouns. Look at this example now. They suggested him to solve his problem himself. So they as subjective from this, suggested him from objective because they subject, him object, to solve his from possessive, problem himself reflexive. Dealing with problem areas: when there are two or three pronouns used as subject or object, arrange them in the third, second, and first person order. Look at the example now. You and I will have to solve the problem. You cannot use I and you. Why? Because what is the rule? When there are two or three pronouns used as a subject or object, arrange them first third person, then second person, and then first person. That's why it is second person you and then I, not I and you. Look at the second sentence. She has got the tickets for you and me. Right? So you second and me first person. Now here we are not saying that she has got the tickets for you and I. No, because I is subjective case. It comes in the beginning of the sentence. If it is coming at the object place, it will take me. So not me and you, or even not you and I. Be careful while using personal and reflexive pronouns. Look at the example. He hurt himself in the process. Hurt no one else but himself. He hurt him in the process. Here, he hurts someone else and not himself. Don't use reflexives as only subject. Again, the major common mistake made by most of the second language speakers, second language learners of English. Myself, Mahesh Shinde. Usually when we are making self introduction, we have habit of saying this: myself, Mr. XYZ, myself is this, myself, and so don't use myself in the beginning of the sentence, because that is reflexive pronoun. So simply you should say my name is, or this is. Himself has done it. We cannot say himself has done it. Rather we can say he himself is responsible for his decay. He himself has done this. Yes, after first, if we are using noun or pronoun, then we can use reflexive after that, but we cannot start a sentence with reflexive pronoun. Be careful when using objective cases, like whose car is it? It's my car, or it's mine, right? So when we are using objective cases, we should use in this manner, like whose car is it? It's my car, or it's mine. We should not say it's my or it's mine car. Same with our and ours. It's our car, it's ours. It's your car, it's yours. It's her car, it's hers. It's their car, it's theirs. Let us do exercise now. Pause the video, go through the sentences and cross out the incorrect pronoun in each of the following sentences. Don't worry, it's I, me in the backyard. She and I or me went for a movie. Let's distribute the work between you and I or me. Leave it, this bag is our or ours. While riding, Ramesh fell off the bike and hurt himself. That book is mine. Handsome guys like him love checking themselves out in mirror. I hope you have done. If not, just pause and resume once you are ready with your keys. Let us see the keys now. So here, don't worry, it's me in the backyard, not it's I, because me is used in objective form. She and I went for a movie. I coming in as a subject in subjective form, that's why it is I. Let's distribute the work between you and me. Now here, me is coming here as objective, as an object, so objective case, me. Leave it, this bag is ours, not our. If you want to use our, so leave it, this is our bag. While riding, Ramesh fell off the bike and hurt himself. That book is mine. Handsome guys like him love checking themselves out in mirrors. So here we are talking about handsome guys, and him is one of the examples. That's why themselves. Second exercise about confusing pronouns. Now this is going to be a really enjoying part. You are supposed to think and use the proper pronouns here. Fill in the blanks with appropriate pronouns as per your knowledge, and then we will come up with the actual keys, and I will tell you why they are there. Someone has left mobile here. Everyone knows that -- how to wear mask during this pandemic. If anyone needs to travel -- need to take prior official permission. Everybody appears to be well aware about the pandemic and has started taking care of -- one cannot be so lazy in life. Can -- Sachin's company has -- own training center. I hope you have got some of the ideas and you have got some responses. Let us see the key now. First, someone has left their mobile here. How come? I know some of you must have written his or her. Someone has left his or her mobile here. No, it is there. Let us see. I'll explain. Everyone knows that they have to wear mask during this pandemic. Now, let me tell you, you must have observed that if your friend changes his or her phone number on WhatsApp, you get one message that Mr. XYZ has changed their phone number, their contact number. Why there is used there? Because as per modern grammar, if the gender is unknown, we use they or their or them, right? So here someone, we are not aware whether someone is boy or girl, that's why there. Even they is also used for a singular he or she if the gender is unknown. So everyone knows that they have to wear mask during this pandemic. If anyone needs to travel, they need to take prior official permission. Everybody appears to be well aware about the pandemic and have started taking care of themselves. One cannot be so lazy in life, can one? And Sachin's company has its own training center. So it's without apostrophe. If I give apostrophe here, it becomes it is. Let us move to the next, third part of speech, verbs. And let us first know about the important facts of verbs. So what is a verb? A word which denotes action or state of being. For example, I teach grammar, action of teaching. He looks tired, state of being. The most essential component of English language is the verb. You cannot think of a sentence without verb. We can make a one-word sentence with the help of verb. For example, stop, sit, listen. They change in their form according to subject and tense, like to sing, sing, sang, sung, sings, singing, etc. So in English, we cannot imagine a sentence without verb. That's why verbs are very important part of speech in English language. A verb always has a subject, either explicit or implied. Dr. Mahesh, explicit subject now, which is visible, teaches us English and communication skills. And stand up, here the noun you is implied subject here. Stand up, like it means you stand up. Types and the classification of verbs. Now here we need to focus somewhat, we need to elaborate on those, because the verbs are divided in major two types, but their subtypes are more and their uses are also more. So verb classified in two categories: helping verbs, they are again divided into linking verbs, and auxiliaries. Auxiliaries are divided in three parts: principal auxiliaries, modal auxiliaries, and semi-modal auxiliaries. Principal auxiliaries have to be, to have, and to do. Modal auxiliaries are these: can, could, may, might, shall, should, and so on. Semi-modals are need to, dare to, used to, and have to. We are going to see the usage of all those, and we are going to see the forms of principal as well, and the usage of modal and semi-modal auxiliaries. Second classification is main verbs. So again, main verbs are divided in three categories: based on object, based on action, or based on past forms. So based on object, transitive or intransitive. Transitive, which takes object, read. Intransitive, which does not need object, sit. We will see in detail. Dynamic, stative. Dynamic, run. Stative, like. Regular and irregular. Regular, like cook, cooked, cooked. Irregular, write, wrote, written. We will see each in detail. So let us first focus on the forms of principal auxiliaries. So we will talk about auxiliary verbs first, and then we will focus on the main verbs. So auxiliaries, they are first about the principal forms of principal auxiliaries, like to be, to have, and to do. I hope you must have gone through these forms. So let us just go fast and revise. So to be has its various forms in present, past, and future tense. To be, the form of to be in present tense are am, is, are. In past it is was, were. Future shall be and will be. To have has in present, had in past, shall have, will have in future. To do and does, did in past, shall do and will do. Some of the facts about modal auxiliaries now. Remember, the modal auxiliaries are always followed by the infinitive without to. For example, may see, should go, not may to see or should to go. Same for all pronouns. Now this is applicable for all pronouns. I should, he should, they should, it should, he should, and so on. So they are always same for all the pronouns. They never combine with another modal verb like he, will, might, do. We sometimes make mistake of using more than two auxiliaries. So it is not correct use of auxiliaries. Semi-modals, like ordinary verbs, they are always followed by infinitive like have to do, need to be, used to go. Not same for all pronouns. The semi-modals are not same for all pronouns. For example, I, we, you, they have to do, but he, she, it has to do. They take auxiliaries also. For example, I don't have to, like do not is auxiliary taken by this semi-modal, that is have to. Can combine with modal verbs as well, like he will have to. So modal verb will is combined with have to semi-modal. So he will have to or you may need to. Let us see the usage of these modal auxiliaries now. First, can is used to show ability or lack of ability, present and future. You can or cannot win this race. Giving permission, expressing prohibition. For example, you can park your bike here or you cannot park your bike here. Informal requests with friends, colleagues and family, not in formal situations like can we meet tonight friends. With friends and families, informally we can make these requests but not in formal situations. Could, same usage as like can but in past tense. You could or you could not win that race. Like you could win that race, you could have taken part, or you could not win that race, no worry if you have not taken part. Could is also used to make polite requests. Could you tell your name please? Modal auxiliaries, next usage may. For more polite permissions and requests, may is used. May I borrow your pen? Keep in mind that may is the most polite modal verb than can and could. Then may and might, if we are using them together to show possibility, we use may or might. It may rain tomorrow, it might rain tomorrow, future possibility. But when we are talking about the past, we are supposed to use only might and not may. For example, had it not rained yesterday, I might have met you, not I may have met you. Past possibility, that's why we are not supposed to use may. We should use might. Next, should. It is used for expressing an opinion or giving advice or asking for advice in present as well as future. For example, you should complete this course as advice. I think you should complete this course as an opinion. What do you think? Should I complete this course? Taking advice, asking for advice. Expressing regret or criticizing about a past action. I should have completed this course. You are regretting because you could not complete. That's why I should have completed this course. And to criticize, you shouldn't have laughed at her. Like because you laughed, she got nervous. So you shouldn't have laughed at her. You are criticizing him. In formal English, should can replace if. Right. So should you have any queries, feel free to contact us. You must have got some of the emails at the end they use like this. Should you have any queries? So sometimes if is replaced with should in formal English. Ought to and should are same, but ought to sounds more formal and it is less used. Must and had to. Expressing a necessity to do or not to do something in present and future, we use must, and in past we use had to. For example, you must complete this course to achieve accuracy in English usage. You must not miss this course to achieve accuracy in English usage. Both necessity and need of doing something. Expressing assumptions, also we use must. He must be very happy to know that he stood first in class. No one is responding. I think they must have left. We are making assumptions. To express a necessity in the past, we use had to, as must doesn't have past form. For example, he had to take more efforts to achieve first rank in his class. Have to is also used instead of must to show external obligations or rules, right? So when we use have to instead of must, when there is some external obligation or compulsion, or that is a rule. For example, I have to finish this assignment tonight because it's due tomorrow. Now why have you used have to? Because it is an external obligation, external compulsion. Tomorrow is the deadline, external compulsion. That's why you are using I have to finish. You should not say I must finish. That may be necessity, that may be the assumption, right? So use have to when there is external obligation. Next, shall and will both are used for formulation of future simple tense. You will see at the time of tenses. In addition, shall is used for making or asking for suggestions. For example, shall I take part in this competition? You are asking for suggestion. It is also used and for expressing a duty in formal documents and contracts. So shall is also used in formal documents, like the borrower shall pay the installments on time. So it shows expression as a duty, expressing duty. It is mandatory for the borrower to pay the installments. It is not optional. Will is used to make a promise, like I will help you. It is also used to make informal requests with friends and relatives. Will you drop me please? Will you drop me there please? Will you open the window please? And so on. Not informal. Let us do exercise now. Choose the right modal verb in the following sentences. Pause for some time and come up with your keys. Dash dash, you speak German. No, I dash dash. Take an umbrella. It rain. Dot dot, ask a question. The teacher said we dot dot read this book for our own pleasure as it is optional, but we dot dot read it if we don't want to. It's a hospital. You dot dot not smoke here. Let us see the keys now. The first, can you speak German? No, I cannot. We are asking about the ability. Take an umbrella. It may rain or it might rain later. May I ask a question? Can I ask a question? So may I ask a question is most formal, used in formal context. Can I ask a question? Informal. The teacher said we can read this book for our own pleasure as it is optional, but we needn't to read it. We need not to read it if we do not want to. It's a hospital. You must not smoke here. Let us talk about the main verbs now, facts and their uses. Transitive and intransitive. Transitive, they require an object to make a complete sense. For example, he read a novel yesterday. We can ask what to get the object, like he read what? A novel yesterday. Intransitive makes sense without object. They do not need object to make sense. For example, he ran. It makes sense. We cannot ask what. Definitely we can ask how or where, but he ran itself makes a complete sense. However, many verbs can be used transitively as well as intransitively. For example, my friend speaks fast, intransitive. My friend speaks English fluently, transitive. She sings every day, intransitive. She sings various songs every day, transitive. Next, dynamic and stative. Dynamic verbs describe action like hit, kill, fight, throw, write, etc. Stative verbs describe a state or situation like love, prefer, see, hear, same. Remember, stative verbs cannot be used with continuous tense, right? So we cannot use those stative verbs like I am loving it, I am hearing you, I am seeing that, I am feeling, and so on. Regular and irregular. Regular verbs, they take D or ED in their past and past participle like cook, cooked, cooked, book, book, booked. Irregular verbs, they don't take D or ED. They are different. They have different forms or maybe same forms in their past and past participle. Write, wrote, written, cut, cut, cut. So that's the end of part 1 of the course 1.0. In this part, we have seen nouns, pronouns, and verbs in detail. Part 2 will focus on adjective, adverb, preposition, conjunction, interjection, and determiners. So let us meet again in part 2. Thank you very much.